Good morning, iLive listeners. This is Mike Manhertz here, aka Coach Mike. I'm here with Colin Jarvis. Colin is a good friend of mine. We've been in the industry forever. Colin, coach, he's been training athletes, pro athletes, individuals to go on stage for fitness performances. He trains the guy who wants to lose 10 pounds, and he also grew up with his father, who happened to be a bodybuilder. So, Colin, how you doing today, my man?
I'm well.
That's good. That's good. It's good to see you, and I appreciate your time. Tell me a little bit about, because I mean, we want to get into your fitness journey, your health journey. We know you were diagnosed for colon cancer, and we want to get into that. And but I want to take a time to go through your childhood, growing up with your dad, and what kind of things you learned from him, and how that influenced you on your journey to becoming the guy you are right now.
Okay. Well, you know, okay. So first of all, thanks for having me, brother. Uh, you know, I just want to tell everybody this, like from the beginning, you know, my parents, my father taught me a way of life. Okay. So it was not just to do with fitness. It was just a way of life. The journey could have been, we can use this for everything, education, anything that we want to make sure that we are in control of, which is just life.
Right.
So, the way that, the way that it was more preparing for the day, preparing for your next day, having organization throughout your day. So to know that if it was, schoolwork, we know we had a time. We had from 4 o'clock until 8 o'clock, had to get it done. We knew that if we didn't have homework done, we're not eating dinner. So at the end of the day, we knew that there was a time, that we had until our belly started running. And that was from like after school until for me, it was about 7:30. That's as long as I could go. But, I know that, my parents were going to check it, make sure it was done, and that's the way that it went. So it was the same thing on anything. It was, playing sports. I told you I played hockey in the winter. I played soccer in the summer. Being in Canada, it was different. That was the thing to do.
How many sports were you playing?
That was it. Like, at that time,
as a kid,
when I first started, that was it. I was about, I learned how to skate from I was 6 years old.
Okay.
So by the time I was like 9, I was, into, I think that's the age you had to be. I think it was bantam or minor bantam in both of the sports that you started in. So that was me. My dad, it was different. They had soccer, cricket, and again, bodybuilding was a big thing because they had the gym on the beach. They had the gym thing going on pretty strong there.
So very quickly, Colin, just to intervene, you're growing up with your dad, and obviously you're playing all these sports. What was your eating like? What was your training like while you were playing these sports?
Now, again,
growing up,
we just ate. So back then, it wasn't about a set diet. It wasn't about a structure. It was about gains, getting big, getting strong.
Even when you're a teenager?
Well, my dad ate like that. We ate a lot of rice and peas, meat. A lot of carbs. Banana, dumpling. That's in every meal. I think that's probably and why in later life I did get into some problems because we ate a lot of carbs. Like we could have a piece of fish, but yet still there's.
But you're a growing athlete,
dumpling,
right?
Banana, rice and peas.
Colin,
yeah.
You're a growing athlete, right? In your teens. Isn't that's what you should be eating, no?
Well, you should be, but it's how much you're eating. It just depends on your body type. Again, we didn't really think about what our body types were like. Everybody just wanted to get big. I didn't realize that my body type wasn't a body type to get that big.
Right.
So I overate. And overeating, when you're younger, it doesn't bother you. But when you get older, I'm going to tell you how those problems develop. And we're going to get into that a little later. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about my young times, it was just gains, 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 eat, eat, eat. Luckily, I was eating good food. I was just eating lots of it.
Yeah.
So because my parents were obviously eating, we grew up in a West Indian culture. We ate, real good food.
When
But
did you realize that you had a fast metabolism?
Fast metabolism, I didn't really know, but I guess because my body was different from my father's.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was shorter. I'm
Mm-hmm.
5'11". My
Mm-hmm.
dad is 5'4".
Yeah.
He was 5'5". He was a stocky big man. He was he had the big legs, the big round calves. I had the
Yeah.
high calves, more like a horse.
Right.
My dad was so emulating my dad at the time. My dad had to tell me, like, hey, look, your body's different from mine. You're not going to get as wide as big. But
Mm-hmm.
that was just what people told you. You saw the magazines, you saw the guys like the big guys. It was a difference when Arnold came into the gym, because he was bigger than everybody else. Even when you looked at Franco Colombo back in the days, he was shorter. He was like my dad. He was just short, but he was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the difference of winning the Olympia back then and not winning a competition, was the size that you were, development of the muscle, but it had to be big.
Yeah. Now, Colin, I want to talk about, people talk about genetics, and, I've always been labeled as a guy, well, Mike, you do have certain genetics as per why you have the results. And I know you were labeled as genetics and things like that. How much would you say the body type that you have? And I want to just make it clear to the listeners, Colin Jarvis is a guy who walks around literally at 3% body fat. And as well, I
it's
mean,
never 3%, but it is
since I've known you, maybe 5 or whatever, but very,
whatever.
very little body fat. And I just want to know, uh, basically what the difference is between genetics and someone working hard, and where did you fall into
Yeah,
that category?
it's you realize after a little while. I mean, obviously, I told you about my body shape and the way that it was. I was ripped all the time, but that had a lot of development with everything. Genetics obviously had a big part of it. Didn't really know it at the time, but because I was always active,
Mm-hmm.
those things you don't really realize, because everybody around you looked the same. Everybody was ripped. I mean, we were all ripped because this is
Okay.
all we did. This is
Mm-hmm.
all we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until you get older and you realize that some of your mates that that had the fitness journey with you, all of a sudden they're getting that little belly and you're not really getting that belly.
Yeah.
These guys are getting older and they're like, Colin, how are you doing it? And you're looking at yourself going, I'm the same. I've been this way since I was 13.
Right.
And then you realize, wow, obviously there's something there. Because my dad was shorter and stocky, and my mom was shorter, my sister's shorter, beautiful
Mm-hmm.
big legs.
Yeah.
I never really thought it was genes, because again, my immediate family, they don't look like me, so
Yeah.
how's it going to be genes? But my dad obviously is a fit man.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and my sister, to this day, even my sister older than me, she looks amazing. Like, she looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, genes is a factor, but way of life is a factor. And
Yes.
again, the way that we didn't cut off much, diet was something that, yes, I didn't have it structured, but we ate well. My problem was I just ate too much of it, and it had nowhere to go because I was always working out. I had fast metabolism, and unfortunately I wasn't drinking enough fluids. So
Yeah, for sure.
and fluid component uh, foods. So when we came here again, things that would come naturally every single day that you
Yeah,
didn't think about because it was free, vegetables and fruit.
for sure.
So by the time you came here, you're like, what, buying vegetables, fruit?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really think about it as much. You didn't really think, but the big core, you always thought about, oh, make sure your rice and peas is in there and your big meat,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
your chicken or your fish. And, so we ate maximum of that. but then we're forgetting, man, we got to put in those vegetables, man, and eat as much fruit as we were
Yeah.
doing before, but we didn't. So, for about 10 years,
It
you
just didn't
know,
happen.
it's like what the Canadians call the meat and potato guy, you become that yam, banana,
Yeah.
dumpling, and stews again. That is, all you're doing is stewing a lot of fat and putting it inside your body, unfortunately, and a lot of salt and sodium, and that. But that's the way that we cooked. But we just forgot, little components. We just had to change the way that we cook those things. My dad got high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Because of that. But we didn't change the food. We just changed the way that we cooked it.
Yeah.
And then we added in, knowing that now, you really got to buy your fruits and vegetables, and you got to buy a lot of it. You got to have it around because you were eating that all the time. It was flushing your system.
Now, Colin,
again,
tell me,
water.
Water. Yeah. What did you want to say?
Water was a big thing. We came to Canada and we forgot all about the water. We started just buying what we thought made us, look good. We have money now. So, we have to, we buy sugar water now. We buy juice. We buy pop.
Now, Colin, just sorry to interview. You're on your childhood. I mean, in your teenagers, you're growing up with your parents, and obviously you guys are eating lots of calories and good starches, but obviously the didn't get enough of the the nutrients that you needed. Tell me about your training style coming up through as your teenage years, going into sports, into your adult years. Some of the things you learned from your dad as far as muscle development and things like that coming up in your as you were coming into a young man.
Okay, so let me break that down. So what was the first question? Break that down.
What kinds of activities were you doing to gain muscle strength as a teenager?
So because I
with
was
your
always,
dad in the household and everything.
Because I was always in sports like that. Again, my parents, like I said from the beginning, it was the way that we lived life. It was education first, health and fitness second. Mm-hmm. It was the way that my dad lived. My dad's a big engineer. My mom's a director at TD Bank. But they always had fitness in their lives, so they had to make sure that we had these things because this is what they had. So sports, it became sports for me. Mm-hmm. It became sports from very young. Competitively, I think from 9. I mean, but I started, like I said, playing soccer and skating since I was like 6. Mm-hmm. So, because I was the Canadian here, my sister was born in Jamaica, my mom was born in Jamaica, my dad was born in Jamaica, so, I became that Canadian kid playing sports. So that was one of the others. Summer we had that, and winter we had this.
How was the training like? The training in the sport, like the coaches?
Everyday training. So for me, the training was, I just put more and more training into it because, we always had the weights and stuff at home. My dad utilized all those stuff. So, I always had that. I always did my thing. At that time, for me, cardio was a big thing to me. I ran a lot. I ran a lot. I was athlete of the year. I played a lot of sports from elementary to right into university. Again,
what were you doing for your own training?
Well, like I said, I ran a lot, man. I was
like jogging. What did you do?
Yeah, I developed into the long distance sports. So cross country, I went right to OFSA. I was either 1, 2nd, or 3rd. The 1500, the 4x4. I was always that, like right into OFSA. I was always the long distance guy. I was never the short distance. I never did the 1. I did do the 2 because it was a little longer, but I didn't excel in the 2. I excelled in the 400, the 800, and the 1500. Like I was that guy.
Those are the muscle fibers you're practicing, type 1.
Well, yeah, had a lot of endurance. Again.
And what sports were you playing? You were playing hockey and soccer?
Yeah, football, hockey,
football.
Soccer. Football came later on, high school.
And when did you start incorporating like weight training for
I always
performance?
had weight training because I was a smaller guy. See, I didn't realize then that was my metabolism. I didn't realize that was my body structure. like I said, I had a picture here of my dad, but I
No,
put
I
it
know what
away.
you.
But
What
again,
was?
it was like my dad was bigger. I was, the lengthy guy, but we didn't really think about why. We didn't think like, oh, my
Yeah.
metabolism was so fast. So again, I was always trying to build something that I never really could build as much as other guys because again, my metabolism was really, really fast.
Now,
So
when
I
you were
ate a
playing,
lot. I ate a lot. I
yeah,
ate a lot. Like I said, it wasn't the best things at more times. I just made sure I
yeah.
had gains. When I got into my teenage life, it got even crazier. I just tried to get gains. I said I had $20. I'd go into McDonald's and buy $20 worth of hamburgers. It would just be it, whatever gains it was. But we'd burn that off in 2 seconds because we were just always doing things. So the diet portion of what we were eating wasn't the important thing. It was just let's just make sure we were eating. So that was something that you have to obviously change when you get older. But at that time, hey, that was just what it was.
Now,
Um,
your preparation for sports, as far as your weight training and the program, were you doing individual
Core, it
weight
was just
training?
core. My
Like,
dad was a
mhm,
big core thing. He said everything above the knees to below your chest, back and front. If you make sure that in the gym you deal with that, that
mhm,
means you're dealing with this, you're dealing with your back, you're
mhm,
dealing with everything above your knees, back and front. So
right.
squatting, deadlifting, that is it. That was me always. It didn't matter if it was weights. It didn't matter if it was uh, uh, pop bottles filled with water, which made 1 liter. Put those into bags, put it into knapsacks, doing, lunges from the football field back and forth. It was all core, core, core.
Mhm.
It was never the pretty muscle things. It was never that. My dad was never about that. Um,
And when you say pretty muscles, you're talking about like what, like the biceps, chest
yeah,
area,
you'd
kind of
see
stuff like
guys in
that.
the gym. They
The
would just be
aesthetic
doing.
muscles.
Yeah, exactly. I saw guys in the gym. You go into the gym today,
Hmm.
chest, bicep. They forget their legs.
Hmm.
They forget, the real core. Some of them even have a stomach, but they don't care that they can bench press, 4 plates, or
Right.
squat, 5 plates, but yet still you have a gut. Like, I don't even get that, but whatever. Again, so my dad, that's how I got to this way.
Right.
If you didn't have that, if you didn't have that your obliques and your back and your abs right, because you got to remember a lot of people have their abs right, but they forget about their obliques and their back. That's why
Right.
they can't show their abs.
Hmm.
They have the abs, but if you don't tighten the obliques in the back, you'll never be able to see that structure.
And your
So a lot of
metabolism
people,
and your diet too, right?
well, obviously that as well, but
Mhm.
a lot of people just train wrong.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you were pursuing your sports, obviously you had to consume a lot of calories, right?
Yeah.
And with your metabolism, you were able to show all your muscles, you had great definition. When did you decide to transition into obviously fitness competitions? And how did you get into, the fitness industry? And how
Yeah,
was
the
that
fitness.
whole how did you go
Sorry.
from one to the other as far as
Yeah,
the athlete to
it was
fitness?
exactly that. After high school, um, I went to university, and university was it was it was tough. You know, I realized it was tough to be athlete of the year and do all these sports, and it was and do academics at the same time to the fullest.
Hmm.
And again, I told you my parents, they were, there was no in the middle. You either had to be up here or up here, and that was on
Yeah.
both, and that was
Hmm.
on both things. So, for me, after the whole team thing, I realized that, you know, um, to be able to excel in what I want to excel in and make sure, I get a good job out there and work hard and do all those things, which, you have to do. And
Yeah.
as a black man, you have to do it even harder. I got more into the individual, and the individual was just making sure that I was going to the gym and being fit. And
Okay.
so I stopped all the team stuff. And obviously, um, I got more into the bodybuilding, competitive fitness.
Yeah.
Actually, people just said to me, they saw my body type and they said, hey, man, if you compete, you'd really do well. So, I started doing that. The fitness came, with education. That was for me wanting to get out of the most out of it. So I had to learn myself. So I got educated. Obviously, I knew at this point in time, university, this is what I want to do. Kinesiology, biology, my undergrad, and then getting my master's of health science and going on from there. But again, so that was a lot of knowledge that I had inside, which was a good thing, but practicing the knowledge was something that you did later on. It was like, training people, and I would, we would go through, 20 minutes, 10 minutes of stretching. But if I went to the gym, I would just jump right in. So, practicing what you're preaching is a whole different thing as well. It's really crazy, my friend.
Shoot, man.
So all these things come a little bit of late. And it was the same thing about diet. It was the same thing about working out.
Yeah.
Not to say that I wasn't doing the right things. It was just, excessive. Again, working out every day, you don't do that. You need time for your bodies to grow, eating to the maximum, everybody has a different body type. Everybody has a different metabolism. Everybody breaks down things differently. So everybody has to eat differently. I didn't know that. I was just eating like the same giants that were inside the gym. We ate the exact same. We'd order the same, it was bad. And all I was doing was, binding up my stomach. I wasn't drinking a lot of fluids, water for sure. I wasn't drinking enough. And that's what brought the problems that I had.
Yeah.
But
what was the training like different from, say, a fitness competitor and then as an athlete? Because a lot of people want to know, is there a difference type of training?
Yeah, there is.
What is that like?
When I'm talking about gains is a thing that we talk about with food consumption, and we talk about with body mass. It was all about getting big, again, we talk about Ronnie Coleman, we talk about, Dexter Jackson, we talk about Kai Green. All these guys are big, huge guys. They're the guys in the magazines. We want to be that big. You saw Flex Lewis and you were like, oh my God, but you didn't realize that there's only 20 of those guys in the whole entire world.
Yeah.
Like, they're the same guys. You go to the Olympia, there's maybe going to be one or two guys that are going to come up, but those were the one or two guys that were just born as giants like them.
Yeah.
Around the world to come up, because we're talking about 20 guys in the world. We're not talking about 20 guys in just the US. We're talking about 20 guys in the world. We're talking about Big Ramy. We got to talk about all these guys from around the world that we wanted to look like, and didn't realize that these guys came out of their mother at 30 pounds, bro. Like, you know what I mean? So I was trying to get as big as these people. So back in the gym at those times, it was about lifting heavy. If you couldn't put 2-3 plates on a bar, then why are you in this gym?
So that was more like the gym. That was more like the gym trend. But like,
that was the ego, man. It was the ego. Lift big. We watched Pumping Iron. We saw Lou Ferrigno. We saw all these guys, and remember, it was all about lifting big. We didn't realize, but you got to remember, these guys didn't live their full life yet either. So we didn't see,
Were these guys lifting big to go on stage? Not to go on stage, right?
They're lifting big to get big, to cut down 2 to 3 weeks before they get on stage, so they can show off that big muscle that they just built.
Nice.
Okay. But you got to remember, all those guys right now, we didn't have longevity to tell you what's going on. You didn't have a guy like me right now at this age to tell you what's going on. I'm going to tell you that's who we followed. But I'm going to tell you right now, Ronnie Coleman just had 5 hip surgeries in the last 2 years.
What do you think attributed to that?
Bro, you just shouldn't be doing all that. It's what
all that
it
weight,
is.
like the mass
you
kind
don't
of thing?
lift 800 pounds on a core body of 32 waist, 34 waist. Like, are you kidding? It was the stuff that I did. That's why all my joints are the way that they are now. Like I said, it was ego. It was what we thought that made you the fittest. The bigger you are. Arnold was big, so we thought he won the Olympia. So we thought he was the fittest person in the world. So we got to get like Arnold. Arnold was 210 pounds on stage.
But you have a lot of athletes, like hockey players, athletes who use their hips repetitively. They're subject to these surgeries as well.
Yes, and that's where the culture had to change because we realized in different sports, this was happening to guys that weren't supposed to be doing this type. They were supposed to be doing more flexibility training.
Right.
But we didn't put that in. We didn't separate those things before. We separate them all now. We actually separate them by sport, by category. Now we just didn't. Trainers treated athletes the same way. We had this, it was the Russians came. They were winning the Olympics. They were all about big, big, big. Even their tennis players. You had a woman tennis player, Martina Navratilova, like she was big. Like everybody was big. Everybody was huge size. And we thought that's what gave them the performance enhancing because of size.
Right.
You know?
Well, before we get to that, how do you compare the training of when you were coming up as an athlete compared to the way you're training athletes now, based on all the knowledge you've, like, what were you doing then?
We didn't even use the things that we use now. Before there was just weights. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. So at that point, it was just weight, strength, big push, pull. Now you have endurance to put in there. You have bands, you have tubes, you have balls, you have your own body weight. You know, yesterday just doing wall squats killed me. Okay. And killed me. We wouldn't do wall squats back then. We'd put it on a bar and we'd do squats. We wouldn't put a Boise ball behind us and sit there and thinking that was going to build our legs. But I'm going to tell you, that's what builds legs. But again, so it's different. But again, you know, our minds grew, more knowledge came, education came, and education came from a lot of people getting injured, unfortunately, because then they realized, oh, we got to go to those people who know. We got to talk to the chiropractor. We got to talk to the kinesiologist. We got to talk to the nutritionist.
What are some of the things you've seen in the gym with guys just overloading their joints? And just in the fitness industry and guys who need your help. This is why people need someone like your expertise.
This is why now the industry is so big, because people have the knowledge. They're listening to people, they're listening to interviews like this. They're on the net every single day. They can search information like this. So there's so many people that have done it or did it or are doing it right. Where they know why they did it right. And you take the abundance of the people who are doing it right. There is three things. Their diet was right. Their lifestyle was right. And their exercising form and practice was right. So when those three things combine, that's what makes it. Back in the day, people did one thing. So there are people that were fit and then never went to the gym, but they just ate right. There was people that just played their sports, but they didn't eat right or they didn't exercise right, but they were healthy. And then there's people who went to the gym that they exercised right, but they didn't eat healthy or play sports or had a good lifestyle, stressed out, and that they made them healthy. Now we realize that we need all combinations to be healthy. All.
What are your thoughts on like weights versus bands and like as far as percentage of use? Because there's a lot of people just don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's a beautiful process, you know, and it's a process of life and it's a process of age that unfortunately that's what we realize how these things benefit us and then realize, oh, we could have been benefiting from this from way back. So my process of benefiting was because of, you know, my injuries. So my injuries I needed the push and pull. I needed to put weight into it and realize that, hey, bands are going to provide this with me, but it's not going to injure my joints. So rehabbing, I started using bands. I started doing all these workouts, TRX. I started.
What are your thoughts?
Wizard balls. My thoughts were amazing because, again, I looked at myself and I was just as big. So I realized, oh, I can obviously now start incorporating all these things into the gym. And that's why I'm a trainer now, incorporating lots of stuff. You got to remember, I didn't start boxing until I was in my 20s. I didn't do Muay Thai until my 30s. I didn't do ninjutsu until my 30s. You know, I did MMA in my life right now. So look at all the things that I didn't do before, that I was a bodybuilder before. Now look at me. I mean, I've got 29 different certificates in everything you can think of. I'm a
Yeah.
kettlebell champion. I'm a bat champion.
Wow.
So, look at all the things that I've developed all the way through these things. So again, you got out of the bodybuilding and you got
Yeah.
into just being fit, you know?
Now with the band training, because a lot of people are trapped, they're trapped at home.
It's
They have
amazing
challenge.
right now.
What do you, and you
I'm
just,
going to
yeah.
tell you the best thing about band training. I'm going to tell you the hardest thing is to develop the top. And what we talk about the top is the finishing of every exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just talk about it as basic as this, because I'll just take a basic muscle that everybody knows and everybody wants to develop, the
Yeah.
bicep.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm doing a bicep, I'm pulling the weight up,
Mm-hmm.
but the finishing is here.
Mm-hmm.
The finishing is what builds the solid muscle,
Yeah.
burns the fat.
Mm-hmm.
A weight, you're always going to go right back down.
Mm-hmm.
From here, the band is giving you the finishing.
Okay, so it
So
finishes at the top. Most of the
finishing
tension
is
is at the top.
So every exercise that you're doing with the band, you are getting finishing no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you something. When you start incorporating that, that's when you get development of your muscle, real development of your muscle, and realize, oh, I don't need weight just to do the finishing. These are going to do it for me. These are going to help me even solidify it for when I do go back to weights. I even know about the finishing because I know what that feels like. It feels like when I do bands.
How would you get that tension at the top end with the weights? What do you have to pace yourself? Do you have to,
Because I'm always telling people about the finishing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always telling people you have to squeeze at the end. You have to hold at the end. You have to pull that glute in at the end. You have to tuck that calf. You got to pull that calf, whatever muscle it is. You got to extend that shoulder. You got to pull it right to the top. Mm-hmm. With bands, it's the only way it goes.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't even have to tell you this.
Uh-huh.
Everybody would just be finishing. It doesn't even matter if you can only lift the band to here. You're finishing it to here because you can't lift any further. But it's finishing. This can't go any further.
Exactly. So through the range of motion.
If you're going straight up like this. So at the end of the day, you're getting that finishing out of it, which burns fat, builds muscle, and gives you really good core solid muscle.
That's
actually good. It repairs. It actually helps because, again, you can get into a lot of those joint pains and pains from actually lifting iron and not getting that flexibility in because you didn't stretch enough. But when you're using the bands, you're incorporating the stretching with your exercise. So people are getting more fulfillment out of it.
So you could jump right into the band workout and that'll be part of your warm up.
I'm going to tell you something, man. It was something that people are going through right now. Mm-hmm. So it was rehab of whenever I'd get injured, I'd start using bands. And people are understanding that right now because people are stuck home during this COVID and just started using bands.
Yeah.
Guys like even myself, like this age, they even started using bands. People that are, and when I talk about age, I'm just talking about knowledge in the industry. Right. So there's people that have just much knowledge in the industry and they just started using bands because they were at home and they don't have what we have in the gym. And we've been this way for almost a year now. So they just started using bands. But I'm going to tell you, the people who haven't used bands are incorporating them right now. And I'm talking about fitness professionals. Yeah. Every time that I talk to them right now, everybody is telling me when they go back into the gym, they will be incorporating bands in their workouts.
For sure.
So that's why I could tell you the gains, how good it is. And again, not doing just one thing. You got to mix up. And that's why I tell people the way that it is, with bands, I talked about fighting and boxing and, that was a whole different training.
Right.
And, so when I see the development of my body right now, it wasn't just one thing, it's a lot of these things. I remember when you were telling me earlier about when I was just lifting, but then in my 20s, and this is something that people started as a kid, but I didn't start until my older 20s, I learned how to skip because I was doing boxing now. So all of a sudden at 29, I incorporating skipping into my workouts, which I do now, and I do with my athletes now. But I didn't do that when I was younger, and I still had a 12-pack. But I started that later on and realized, oh, this is even a better way to start dealing with my core.
Now, did you find
this is something that's just basic?
Yeah. Did you
Again,
find the skipping helped you with your endurance with the weight training?
skipping just helps everything. There's sometimes I speed skip. There's sometimes I skip for 30 seconds and I'm done for the
Hmm.
day. Sometimes
Hmm.
I skip for, I do it as an endurance thing. Skipping again, there's 1,000 different exercises you can do in skipping with a skipping rope. So it's
Hmm.
just not one. So when I tell people, when people are like, I'm going to train you on skipping, oh, I know how to skip. Uh, okay, well, I'm going to teach you 100 exercises on skipping that I bet you don't even know.
What muscle groups benefit from skipping? And
Every muscle group benefits from skipping. It's like swimming. Every
okay.
single muscle in your body,
Hmm.
every single muscle, even your neck muscles. People don't understand skipping helps your neck.
Okay.
A
I
lot
didn't
of
even
people
realize that.
right now, because they're staying at home watching TV, you know how many people have DM me? My neck is stiff. How do I work out my neck? How do I exercise my neck? And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, you didn't even do that. See, you didn't even know that your neck come down to your shoulders has muscles that you have to deal with.
Hmm.
Like I said, so it's right down everything. Again, your ankles, it helps. Calves, go up to your thigh, go up to your hamstring, obviously your glute. It helps your abs, it helps your chest, shoulders. I just told you, right up.
Hmm. Well, if you're just jumping on board, iLive listeners, we're here with Colin Jarvis. Colin Jarvis from the Toronto area is a well-known trainer, trains professional athletes, competitors for fitness, and also anybody that just wants to lose weight. We've talked about his journey coming up as a teenager with his dad, a bodybuilder, transitioning into sports, playing hockey and soccer, and obviously through university and gaining all the knowledge and moving forward with fitness. But he is going to share with us his experience getting diagnosed with colon cancer, how it happened, what his eating was like going into it, and then obviously the recovery and how rough that was. Colin, give us a little idea of how you were eating leading up to your diagnosis, and obviously the full experience behind it, and your experience in the hospital and everything. Give everybody an idea as per
Okay.
why they need to pay attention to good
Mhm.
nutrition and health and all that.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. It started 2016 is when I was diagnosed. So I guess I was telling you guys a little bit about my diet, and I was telling you, how my diet was a high fiber, carb loaded diet. Um, and it's not a bad thing, but unfortunately, I was telling everybody I was trying to gain weight that, was kind of impossible to do naturally, actually. I wanted to be 200 and odd pounds naturally. Um, my whole muscle development, if I had been able to assess myself then that I know how to assess myself now,
Mhm.
with full muscle and to be the healthiest I should be, the most I should be, a person like myself should be about 190.
Mhm.
But again, I was going for all those gains, but I ate a lot of carbs, a lot of fiber, and unfortunately coming to Canada or living in Canada from parents that lived in the islands, we tend to forget about, the fruit and the vegetables.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing, water.
Right.
Um, so introduced a lot of sugar in my body, a lot of sodium, started eating like the Canadian kids,
Yeah.
going to McDonald's, doing all those things. And
What was your sleep
unfortunately,
like?
sleep at that time was probably amazing. Um, Sleep is not so great anymore, but I'll get into that a little further. Um, again, so anyways, again, it was all, I had a lot of knowledge at that point in time, but I wasn't really pushing the knowledge on myself. I was, I'm an old school trainer. I train myself old school, but I train everybody else a mix of old school and new school, the knowledge that you have. I
Mhm.
train people actually way better than I trained myself at that time.
Yeah.
So, I was lifting. I was competing, just trying to get gains. Uh, you know, had a good body.
Hmm.
I have some pretty good, um, I have some pretty good, what do we call that, genes, mixed in with some pretty good workout habits
Yep.
from my father.
Mhm.
And from the trainers that I always developed in through every sport. Had
Yeah.
many amazing trainers.
Mhm.
Gosh, amazing trainers that taught me a lot of what I teach people today. So, I had that background, but unfortunately, I had gut problems, and gut problems developed into cancer,
Mhm.
developed into cancer in the colon, and that changed my life. But that also um, changed my life to the bad at that point in time, but changed my life to the good at this point in time, because
Mhm.
I realized that, you know, I had to change my diet.
Right.
So knowing this helped me cure myself from introducing two amazing components that I still put into my diet right now, but one is CBD and one is the chaga root. And those things healed me, got me out of the synthetic drugs that they were giving me, and started putting natural things in, cleansing my body,
Yeah.
detoxing, and starting again. And that's what healed me. And
How
that's
did
what
you find out about everything?
I didn't
Because
really.
it must have been a shock.
It was like I said, it was having the family and the parents that you have. They come into the hospital and they realize that you know you have cancer, but yet still these people are still feeding you crap. They're giving you soup. They're bringing it to you in a container that's covered with plastic, and you got to open that plastic to drink your soup. They're giving you a container of broth covered in a plastic
That was the
cover.
nutrition that you were getting at the hospital then.
Well, dude, you got cancer, but yet still they're just giving you plastic,
Oh man,
vaporating plastic in a muscle. So
kind
my
of
mom
defeats the whole
saw that.
purpose. Yeah.
My mom saw that, and obviously, she tried to change things up, and what she did, and she started administrating me stuff that was more healthy. And again,
Mhm.
um, those two key components, for sure,
Mhm.
um, helped me downsize the disease.
Now, Colin, you're a guy in great shape. You were competing. This had to be a shock. When did you find out, and how did you find out that you had colon cancer?
Uh, yeah, it was the worst way ever. Um, the worst way ever. As I was telling you, I had dietary problems,
Yeah.
and as I was getting older, um, they were forming inside my body. And because I was always somebody that always looked good older,
Right.
um, you never thought about those things. I'm 30, but I look like a 20-year-old. I'm 35, now I look like a 25-year-old. I'm 40, and now I look like a 29-year-old. And you're eating like a 29-year-old. You're forgetting that you're 40. So this is when it developed.
Right.
And all those things started seizing in my body. I wasn't passing them. And like I said, the doctor, when I went to the nutritionist, that's why we couldn't detect things as fast, because I was eating good things. I was just eating too much of it and wasn't passing through my body. I wasn't drinking enough water. I wasn't eating enough vegetables. I wasn't eating enough fruit, but I was eating carbs, 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 meat, meat, meat. So again, you know, you have to have a diet. And what a diet is not just good things that you eat. It's a plan of when you put them in your system, to how your system develops and how your system processes.
Hmm.
Some people process food fast. Some people process food very slow.
Yeah.
That depends on what you eat, and that depends on how you process the food. Even now, because of cancer, I have a quarter of my intestines that are gone. So now I have to eat 6 very small meals. I can never eat a big meal because it will
Hmm.
not go through my body and it cannot process. So I got to eat 6 to 9 very small meals to make all my components up of the day before. And can you see the oxymoron on that? I
That's
used to
wild.
eat big, huge meals and put them down because my body was small. I couldn't process it.
Right.
So this is what began those problems. Now, again, you know, um, change of diet, which I should have done before, but
Mhm.
good thing I was a fit guy because I wouldn't even have gone through that whole treatment.
Mhm.
But again, I got a second chance, and that's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
But you realize what that second chance was. It was that doctor telling you, wow, man, you came out of this because you were fit. But then you
Mhm.
realize he's just talking about muscle, man. He can't be really
Yeah.
talking about, he couldn't really, and that's what I didn't get in my head because I was
Mhm.
like, well, I had gut problems, but I saved myself being fit. Well,
Right.
so any which way it is, then you realize, hey, man, if I change up my diet, then I'm going to be really good.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. I changed up my diet. I'm going to be really, really good. So again, the three things: milk, sugar, gluten. I had to make sure that, those were the things that, unfortunately for me, that was infesting my body, because what they were doing is they were building bacteria.
Mhm.
Cancer builds on bacteria. Milk is a builder of bacteria. Gluten is a builder of bacteria.
Right.
So everything that I just tried to show you, sugar, the hugest builder of bacteria. So
The stress plates part too.
stress is as big as all three of those things.
Mhm.
It's even bigger. So again, and it's the uncontrollable, but again, stress comes with the battling of these things, because if you battle these things, then you'll know when you're stressed. If you don't, then you'll never know you're stressed, because you're always stressed because of lack of these things.
When did you realize that not passing enough stool was becoming a problem?
Exactly when I got the disease, bro. The disease was exactly that, not passing. So it started with what I didn't know that was going through my body because I wasn't aware. But it does start as something you could probably, if you're not using the washroom
Mm.
enough, if you're not passing enough, if you have certain diseases like diverticulitis, Crohn's, these are the things that cancer develops on down there. So things that I could detect now, I didn't detect back then, but this is how I'm trying to tell the audience today. If you have any of those problems, go get checked. Black
Right.
men in particular, we are 70%, 76%
Mhm.
more susceptible to getting all those diseases that I just talked about than a white man.
Now, did you go and get yourself checked? How did you
No,
find
and
out?
that's why, exactly, if I got it detected earlier, I wouldn't even be through these problems, but I didn't. So
How
that's
did
why
you how did you
that's why
how
I
did you
speak it.
figure everything out? How did
How
you
I
find
figured
out?
everything out was one day during the gym, I was going through a week of stomach pains. I didn't take the pain seriously.
Mhm.
I started doing some squats. I had a spotter that day. I was
Mhm.
wearing my UFT gray squats. The guy told me I was peeing my pants. I thought it was a joke.
Mhm.
I ran into, after I looked down after three more squats later, I saw the black in the gray sweats. That's water or dampness.
Oh
Went
my
to the
God.
change room, pulled down my pants. That was blood, and
Jesus.
that was blood coming out the wrong hole. So I went into shock. Went into the hospital. That was a cyst that
So you
broke.
had a cyst that broke.
Huge one. So that was a rupture. That's cancerous cell. So operated right away. That's it was big. It was big. It was huge. It
How
was
long were
huge. It
you in
was
the
something.
hospital for?
And that's what I was in the hospital for a while. We did some chemo.
Mhm.
We did a whole bunch of things to get me proper, and it wasn't
Right.
working. And like I said, I
Were you
was gonna.
prescribed any drugs? Were you
It
prescribed
was like
anything?
anything. It was the time when they gave me 3.5 months to live. That's when my mom said she wants to try other things, and that was
Jesus, they
that.
gave you 3.5 months to
I
live.
was 90 pounds, bro. My colon was stage 3. The colon's so thin, like it is right now. If I get any pushing or pulling right now, it's what it
So the
is.
doctor said you had 3.5 months to live. How long ago was this?
About that. Yeah.
How long ago was this when he said this?
What do you mean? I was in the hospital then about 9 months.
9 months ago?
I was in the hospital for 9 months.
No,
I
like
got
how
this.
far ago?
It's 2016, bro. Is when I got
Oh,
detected. Like I
yeah,
told you
that's what
that.
I'm saying. Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah. So yeah. So yeah, that's when, again, when I went back to the CBD and the Changa,
Hmm.
that's when, my mom was like, she went to the natural stuff. And that's when we started with all that. Because like I said, it was
So your
bad.
mom decided that would
I
be
was
the best route?
deteriorating. I was actually deteriorating. Like, that was 100 pounds of when I went in there with. I was
Who
190
decided,
going in. I was 90 pounds 7 weeks later.
right? Who decided the alternative medicine was the best route?
My mom, I mean,
Hmm.
like I said, she got information. I was coherent, bro. Like, they would come in and ask you if you're good, and you don't know if you're good or you're bad or whatever. You're on so much drugs, you don't have no clue what's going on. So if you
Right.
don't have somebody in there to help you make these decisions, like I said, that's why I give my life to my parents, because exactly that. The
Hmm.
doctor would just keep you doing those things. And that's how I said, if I didn't make the change, you would not be talking to me today. Because everybody in there, that's what you do, especially at that time. And still today, there's no cure. So they just do what you do. They try to hide the pain, give you some chemo. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's your last days.
Now, what were your thoughts to the chemo and whatever they prescribed? And did you
I was good
eventually
with
come
whatever
off?
they, I have no clue. Doctors at that time knew the best. So
Mhm.
that's why now you have naturopath doctors. And that's why now everybody says, hey, man, get a second opinion, because it's
Right.
exactly that. Um, you
I
just
mean,
trust the doctor. And if you just trust the doctor, again, you have nothing to balance it on. There is
nothing to measure it
alternative,
against. Yeah.
there is, and that's why alternative medicine mixed with, and I'm not going to say
Hmm.
it was all natural, because I got healed. So it could have been a combination of what they were giving me with a combination of what they were. Nobody knows what it was.
Exactly.
You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So it's like, at the end of the day, I like I said, that's why I don't prescribe. I just tell people my life. I said chaga and CBD helped for me. It was the magic juice for me. I
Right.
know people who are on chaga and on CBD and they died yesterday. So it's what it is. I know people who eat the best out of their life vegan. I know people who exercise to the day. I know, and cancer hit them and they were gone in 3 months.
Now, Colin, as a survivor, what is your diet like now? What is your training like now?
Yeah. So my training now is just more of a keep fit thing. I develop weight training with about, oh gosh, about 10 other mediums. Some days it's just different. One day I may just do yoga, the other day I may do bands, the other day I may be in the gym. My workout is a whole bunch of all different things. Today I'm going to do kettlebells. That's my workout for today. I got them all set up right over here. I haven't done kettlebells in 3 months, but hey man, I'm going to do kettlebells today. But
You see any
the way
changes?
that I train people is a combination of all those things.
Hmm.
Like I said, I learned a lot of disciplines as long as I went on. And I use those things in my training when I train with professional athletes, um, when I train with everybody.
Do you see
Um,
any difference right now in your muscle performance now as say before? Well, 2016 is a long time, so we could
yeah,
attribute some to age. But do you feel?
yeah,
How do you feel now when you
yeah.
train?
I
How do you
just
feel?
feel lighter and freer now. Lighter and freer. I just feel that once you get out of that building huge muscle and just building muscle that your body can take,
Mhm.
and that your body needs. Um,
What's
it's a
your
beautiful
sleep like
thing. It's a
now?
beautiful thing. Like I said, everybody should do the research on what their blood type is like, what they gluten free, not gluten free, know your diet,
Hmm.
know all those things, know your stress levels.
Hmm.
Everybody's different, but once you can categorize yourself into that, then you know how to go forward. And
Hmm.
then once you go forward, the only way you're going to feel is better,
Yep.
because all those things are going to work for you. And then that takes off the big thing that I told you, the combination, and that's stress. The
Yeah.
stress is a combination of all those things.
Yeah.
Uncontrollable stress is when you're not healed and you don't know how to heal yourself and you don't even know that you're stressed. But if you're not healed, then then obviously you're stressed.
What was your sleep like before? What's your sleep like now? As a
It's still bad. It's what it is. Through cancer, I sleep with a Cpac machine. Some days some days it's a lot rougher than others. some days I wear it, and by the time I wake up, it's off my face. So that means I know that I definitely had a rough sleep. But
What's
it's
a
what it is.
CPAC machine for the art?
Cpac machine is a mask that helps you breathe.
Okay.
So I stop breathing a combination sometimes the max 10 minutes of every hour. So if you stop
Wow.
breathing, you die right there in your sleep. I have a machine that forces the air in, so then it just puts yourself back into breathing mode.
And what's your diet like right now? What do you eat on a normal day? What do you stay away
Diet is
from?
just
What do you need to
I
eat
don't
more of?
diet is just exactly that. I try to stay away from milk,
Hmm.
gluten, and sugar.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
everything else I put in, some days are better than others. Like I say, I always have to trust my gut. Um, I and you got to mix all those things in. Having colon problems, there's a lot of things that you're supposed to eat that you can't eat. Like I'd
Hmm.
love to eat nuts. Nuts
Hmm.
is great for you. I can't eat nuts.
Okay.
So there's lots. Kale's an amazing, beautiful, beautiful leaf. It's great for you. I can't eat kale. Arugula, used to love it. I can't digest it. Those are not digestible foods for people with colon cancer, but they should be in everybody's diet.
Hmm.
Seeds, amazing. So there's different things that, like I said, you got to find out your diet, what you can do,
Hmm.
and don't take advice. Get combinations of advice. Because when you leave that hospital, nobody tells you. You know, I was in the hospital for that long. Nobody gave me a pamphlet. Nobody told me how to nobody told me how to eat. There wasn't a dietitian that they gave you a week before you come out. I'm going to tell you, I was going to have my favorite salad when I was able to eat again, and it was just through research that I read that I
So
wasn't supposed.
when you
That
left the
wasn't supposed.
hospital, nobody gave you any suggestions or kind of mandated what your diet should be like moving forward?
You see a cancer surgeon. The cancer surgeon has not. He probably doesn't even have a nutrition degree. He doesn't know nothing about nutrition. So
Mhm.
what's he going to tell you? You just dealt with the person dealing with you. Like going to the hospital right now, you're dealing with people with COVID. They're not going to come out and tell you what to eat after COVID.
So when you got home, how did you know that you
You
weren't
got
supposed
to.
to
I
eat
just
kale?
said it. I just said it. You got to do your own research. And that's why everybody's got to do your own research. It doesn't matter that you just came out of the hospital.
Yeah.
You could be sitting there right now and have gut problems. You don't know. Research who you are, why you're doing these things, why you sleep different. All these things can point to what is going inside your body.
That's
You're going to
crazy.
be different from me. You're going to be different from another person. Your
Mhm.
skin. There's people that all of a sudden just started telling me, man, I'm 40 years old. I'm 30 years old. I just started getting skin problems. I never had acne when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Something's going on inside, brother.
Mm.
You
Colin,
know,
where can people reach you? You've given us a ton of points. Where can people reach you? Where do you work out? Where's your day to day in
yeah.
Toronto? Where can people reach out to you?
Well, right now it's COVID, so it is. But I have a studio. It's called the Sweatshop in Yorkville, 70 Yorkville. It's called the Sweatshop. That's where I train most of my clients. I train a lot of my clients at the Pan Am Center in York University. Right now, it's just online training. You can catch me on Instagram at Colin_Ras, which is COLIN_RAS. That's my Instagram. That's where most people hit me up. DM me.
What
Just
kinds of
keep me.
athletes do you train?
Right now, it's MLS. That's who my contract's with. So that's the Argos. That's the Toronto Maple Leaf. That is the Toronto Blue Jays, and that is the Raptors.
Wow.
So any athletes that from MLS can hit me up, and I get paid from MLS when I train from them. So that's why they'll train a trainer like me. So that's free training for them.
Mhm.
I'm a consulted trainer, so that's without their team training.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then I got all my rest of my people, and I have people that have been training for 6-7 years, bro. I
And you
got a
still
lot of I
training
got a
people?
lot of people that have been along with my journey as long.
Mhm.
When I was sick, they took time off too, and they started training back with me right when I got better.
That's
So
great.
unfortunately now it's just really tough. It's COVID,
Right.
and that's where your stress levels you have to calm to yourself. Like I said, if I look at this week, February, Last year I was 89 hours in personal training.
Mhm.
I've probably trained 6 hours this week. So there you go. But that's what it is.
That's
But you
it.
take a break when you take a break, but you just make sure that you don't take a break yourself. So it doesn't
Mhm.
matter that I'm not training people as much, but I'm making sure, I'm even getting more days in. I think I'm getting 5 days in right now.
Yeah.
Before COVID, I think I was only training myself 3 days. So I even put an extra 2 days on myself. So, you just got to,
Yeah.
again, this is the most important thing, yourself,
Well, Colin,
especially in these times.
thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm sure the listeners learned a whole bunch from your journey,
Thanks,
and
brother.
we'd love to have you back on the show again. And thank you so
Appreciate
much,
you,
my
man.
brother.
Appreciate everybody out there, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bro.